from the hubs that we already have that are in place to give us a sense about where things are in terms of actions happening on the ground at the hub level. So to speak to us about what's happening around the West African hub, invite with me Mr. Larry Onuna, the Executive Director of Sea Fish. And then Dr. Bartholomew Chataika, from Cadesa. Is he online or are you on, Dr. Bartholomew? Are you online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, like I said, we'll dive into it straight. We're going to begin by speaking to the country domestication processes and the progress made with that. And I'm just going to give each speaker 5 minutes or so, essentially to tell us about what's happening at your country level. I'll begin with Senegal. How is the Farmer Know Your Soil designed in Senegal to kind of stimulate, effective domestication and implementation of the AFSH action plan? We've heard that a lot of things are happening already in Senegal, so I mean that's something to speak to, and then you can add a bit of flesh around how much progress is being made and how that is going. Over to you, Dr. Fatou.
Okay.
Thank
you, moderator. So I will just give some time to our English-speaking colleagues to take the because I will speak in French, just to let my Francophone colleagues, their ears will breathe because they have this for all day. So I will speak in French and just giving you the time to put on your casque. And so thank you, moderator. So last year I did the last panel of the conference. And this time also I'm in the last panel of the day. So it is a challenge for people to hear us. So Anthony, next year I want a panel in the morning, please. Ok. Donc, pour la question concernant la domestication du plan d'action, mais aussi l'initiative Farmer Know Your Soil. Donc, Farmer Know Your Soil, comme l'a dit Anthony, l'initiative, on en a parlé l'année dernière avec notre ministre chargé des coopératives agricoles durant la conférence. Et quand on lui en a parlé, il s'est engagé à être l'ambassadeur de cette initiative au niveau du Sénégal. Donc il a accepté de porter cette initiative parce qu'il trouve que c'est important pour le pays. Donc on a eu déjà ce premier acquis avec le ministre. Ensuite, durant l'année, depuis la conférence, on a eu des discussions avec lui, mais aussi avec les autres acteurs, comme les organisations paysannes. Il y a aussi une organisation qu'on appelle la DTS, qui travaille sur l'agroécologie. Et donc, on a essayé d'avoir tous les acteurs en même temps pour un peu lancer cette initiative. Mais comme l'a aussi dit Anthony, il y a le défi du financement. Voilà, comment financer cette activité-là. Donc, nous, au niveau du BAM, on s'est débrouillé pour avoir une ligne budgétaire à partir d'un projet qui est financé par le CIRAD, mais porté par l'INP, l'Institut national de pédologie. Donc on a pu mobiliser 40 000 € sur ce projet-là, ce qui n'est pas énorme pour lancer cette initiative à l'échelle nationale. Mais c'est un premier pas et on est aussi dans la dynamique du pays en tant que tel qui commence, comme l'a présenté le professeur Wone tout à l'heure, qui commence à mettre en œuvre le plan d'action. Donc la semaine dernière, on avait un atelier qui a été financé par Agra et Sustain Africa, où tous les acteurs du secteur des engrais et de la santé des sols étaient présents pour parler de la domestication du plan d'action. Donc on avait les acteurs. À la suite de cet atelier, on a élaboré un plan d'action et une feuille de route. Et dans le plan d'action, chaque activité a un responsable bien identifié, bien clair. Maintenant, il reste à mobiliser le financement pour conduire ces activités-là. Et ça me permet aussi de parler peut-être un peu du panel précédent, parce qu'on a vu beaucoup de coalitions. Et à l'échelle nationale, nous qui sommes dans les pays, ça peut être un grand défi de s'y retrouver. Donc, que fait chaque coalition au niveau national? Par exemple, on voit beaucoup d'acteurs. IFDC, par exemple, est dans plusieurs coalitions. Et IFDC est aussi dans le processus de domestication au niveau national, très présent. C'est même l'IFDC qui a contacté le ministère, qui a organisé l'atelier. Et donc, à travers toutes ces coalitions-là, peut-être que ce sera nécessaire de voir comment parler d'une seule voix au sein des pays. Sinon, les décideurs publics peuvent se sentir un peu perdus. Voilà, parce que chacun a ses ambitions, chacun a son programme, mais nous, au niveau national, on n'est qu'un seul groupe. On ne peut pas se démultiplier, donc tout le monde viendra nous parler, et là, dans ce cas, il faut que le discours soit commun et aussi clair, mais pertinent pour le contexte national. Voilà, merci.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatou. Very, very, very well put. And I think Senegal, it's very proactive as a country. My good friend, Dr. Mabuba Diagne, it's someone that is very, 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 very active, your minister. And please, let's keep the good work going, the good example that Senegal is becoming. Thank you very much. I'll turn now to Uganda. Dr. Florence, I'll turn it over to you. So how is it going with Farmer Know Your Soil and the whole domestication, and what's the direction going forward? Over to you. 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I may even use less than 5 minutes. Just to give a summary, what has been happening in Uganda. So since the launch of the Africa Action Plan, different stakeholders met in Nairobi within the East African region and then carved out the priority areas for the East African region. So now come March this year, we met in Kampala with different stakeholders to kind of craft out what can be done as priority areas for Uganda. So that initiated the process of developing the action plan for Uganda, whereby we looked at the Africa plan and then the East Africa plan. But also, with the request from the government, was to also consider the national policies. So whatever we designed as a plan would be also speaking to the current national policies. So yeah, the process began in March, and then currently we have a plan, a draft plan, that looks at priorities both at the Africa level, East Africa, but also looking at the national policy, national agricultural policies for Uganda, especially the fertilizer policy, which also gave us the chance to be able to review the national policies for Uganda, because we saw the agricultural policy, the fertilizer policy were all expired policies. So we looked at it in two ways: what can be done to also align the national policies to the existing Africa plan that we have. So that is what we've been working on. And amongst the priority areas for Uganda, one of them involves building capacity building, doing research, and all of those are also aligned with the Farmer Know Your Soil. So in a way, the way we see it is that we have a plan that is ready for adoption, but also already talks into the Farmer Know Your Soil. So we think it's one of the ways you're going to be able to implement the plan. So the plan hasn't yet been launched as such. However, we are in the advanced stages. There was a presentation saying that we are still in the early stages. I would say I think we are in the advanced stages because we have the plan in place. What remains now is to have the plan go through the National Planning Authority. And then if it's passed by a planning authority, then can be launched as a national plan for Uganda. And again, why we did that is to be able to, the issue of sustainability of the funding. So once the plan is adopted by the government, then it can be also, implementation can also be budgeted for in the future. So that is the process where we are, and we think it should be done as soon as possible. Yeah, so that is, yeah, just to give the update on that. Yeah, same thing with the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign. So far we've had good experiences with different stakeholders who are willing to support the campaign, but also support the implementation of the plan. So what we are hoping is that this support continues even after the launch of the plan, that we're able to have enough finances to implement the plan. And when I say we, it's we as the different actors within the government. As Dr. Chaputo said, what APRC did was to first stipulate the process and then have the ministry take lead. So I talk about we as the different stakeholders, the ministry, APRC, research institutions, different farm organizations, all of whom we've been working together to build the plan that we currently have. So I would say the plan that Uganda has is a collective plan, getting input from the different stakeholders. Yeah, so the idea was to have it launched this year and then begin January 2026 to have now the actual implementation. But also given that we are in the election period for Uganda, just to give our president another term of office, that may delay the process, but if all goes well, then we need to have the plan launched this year. But as we also wait for the launch, then we are not sitting back. So part of the plan has a section where we need to do some documentation, monitoring, and evaluation of the plan. So in the meantime, we continue to implement what we plan to implement and document it as we wait for the official launch. So I would say different activities are being done that speak to the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign, but also implementing the plan that we have already as a draft plan for Uganda. So we are not waiting for the official launch, but yeah, work is going on already, and we are documenting that to continue reporting on how we are implementing the plan. Yeah, I think I can say that for now.
Thank you very much. This is very, very exciting to hear that Uganda is making progress. I think far more exciting part of it to me is the fact that it looks like the financing is internal. It sounds like that from the feedback here. I didn't hear any part of looking for which donor we put some money on the table, where's the money going to come from. It's going to be internally budgeted. Really exciting, and I think that's the way to go across the continent. The moment you're able to do that, to crowd in private sector investment, things are going to go to scale. Yeah, so I'll now turn to Zambia, my friend Brian. Let's hear how is it going with Farmer Know Your Soil as a part of the overall domestication, and then how are we progressing with ESFH action plan implementation. Over to you, Brian.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, very pleased to hear that the Farmer Know Your Soil is really spreading across the continent. I say so because it started from Zambia as a pilot. I think that's where the first pilot was implemented, and it's happy. I mean, it's so pleasing to see that now it's being, replicated in the other parts of the continent. Anthony, was a brainchild of this initiative in Zambia. Thanks to you, Anthony. I think we are trying to keep the fire burning. It hasn't been easy. So in Zambia, we started as a pilot. Proof of concept really is there, but the rollout has been very slow, I must say. We have been, to borrow from Anthony's new word, fasciculating the process. And we are at a stage where I think the government is very convinced, and they are willing to put in a few dollars in the rollout, which is very good, because for us, every time we think of sustainability, and so we're very happy that the government has come to the party. So we have continued to engage them. They want to repurpose some of the funds that they have towards the rollout of the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign. But in the meantime, as ANAPRI, we have continued our partnership with ISDA. I think I saw Bruce yesterday. I'm not sure if he's here. But we've continued with our partnership with ISDA to continue with a few districts, and we have seen a lot of farmers opting in, and we have some very good evidence, of some of the benefits that the farmers have reported. Farmers telling you that their fertilizer budget has reduced because now they are using the optimum amount of fertilizer, because they know the nutrient status of their soil, but their yields have gone up. So those are some of the interesting impact stories that we're getting from the field. So that's the update on the Farmer Know Your Soil. Now going to the domestication. During the summit in Kenya, I think Zambia is one of the countries that had the highest level attendance, because our president was in attendance, and the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture was also in attendance. So after Nairobi, as ANAPRI, we quickly swung into action, engaged the ministry, and began to think of how we can structure the domestication. So we co-developed a concept note with the Ministry of Agriculture's Zambia Agriculture Research Institute, which is the research arm of the Ministry of Agriculture. And when we developed the concept note, I think we saw some lots of goodwill from GIZ, who offered to support the establishment of structures to enable the domestication process. It took a bit of time to begin to put in place the structures. But as of September this year, a technical committee was formed to oversee the domestication process. And as I speak right now, the technical committee is in the process of procuring the services of a team of consultants to develop the Zambia Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. So the plan, the roadmap is that by the end of this year, we should have a draft action plan, which now we are going to follow as a country. Maybe just some other developments that I would like to share is that Zambia has now moved from being a fertilizer importing country. We are almost exporting. I think beginning either this year or next year, Zambia will be exporting fertilizer to the region. We have jumped from a total production of less than 100,000 in about 2-3 years ago. We are now looking at the capacity of in excess of 800,000 annual production. So self-sufficient, but also looking to export to the region. So another development is that we're almost done with the soil mapping for the whole country, thanks to FAO and the World Bank, who have supported the government in this process. So let me end here on the Farmer Knowledge Soil update and also on the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I mean, this is very exciting. I think this is the best panel session to moderate, because it makes me, I'm quite happy because of the feedback I'm getting. I mean, every time when Wale says that the private sector says achieving some objective is a piece of cake, sometimes I know almost that he's talking about some of the things I have said. And some of the feedback you are getting reiterates that. I mean, from less than 100,000 metric ton in a country to 800,000, that's 700% growth in 1 year, right? So it's possible if the environment is right. It's possible. A lot of these objectives are achievable if the environment is right. So I'm very happy about what Zambia is doing, and I believe that Southern Africa will soon have more than enough fertilizer, and the whole of the continent, we will soon have more than what we need. And we will start competing in the global markets with fertilizers. I think that's where we are going. It's not just about feeding our need, anticipating in the global market, since we have natural resource for some of these things. Thank you guys for the great work going on. Now I turn to the other side of the conversation, which is now to hear from the hubs what's going on, where things are at in terms of, you know, the hub playing their role of supporting countries in the domestication process, and particularly ensure that we mention about what's happening with Farmer Know Your Soil initiative, as well as how is the funding happening at the hub level? Because one thing that we know is that the people that often drive the hub, at least the institutions in which some of the hubs sit, traditionally they survive with money from outside. So the question now comes in a situation where the environment is actually forcing us to think differently. I don't like the word we are starved. We were actually just begging what we should not be begging before. So, but now we're getting forced to think differently. How are the hubs addressing the financing challenge? You know, but I'll start from online. What we tend to do in this kind of conversation is to put the guy who is online often last, and they feel a bit forgotten. But you are there, Dr. Bartholomew. So let's hear from you. How is the hub that is sitting in Kadesa moving in terms of domestication, supporting the countries in domestication and financing, and in terms of Farmer Know Your Soil? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Thank you for giving Kadesa this opportunity. I should start by saying, as a region, after the declaration, we moved forward to establish or to develop 2 key documents. The first document was on the establishment and operationalization of the regional hub. And the second document, it's actually a program or project that will actually harmonize or implement the agreement. So we are calling it Regional Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. So we have those 2 key documents which have been developed in a collaboration with the member states. and have been endorsed by the ministers. And the hub itself has also been endorsed. So we, as a region, we are fully operational. I should say we underwent this process in collaboration with several key partners, like FAO, AFAP, CRIS, AGRA, MAPATA, IITA, ARC, several of them, AUC, NEPAD, FARA, and also ICRA, just to mention a few. This was to ensure that we include all the key partners in the process. Now, how are we supporting the countries to domesticate the implementation of the action plan? We have 3 key roles as SROs: regional coordination, policy harmonization, as per this workshop, and also knowledge brokering. These are the key areas that the region is focusing on. Because CADESA is mandated by the SADC member states to coordinate. So all the activities, including the partners coming to the region, we are supposed to provide that coordination role so that we avoid duplication, we ensure efficient use of resources, and also we promote learning across member states. On policy harmonization, the hub has put forward the plans to harmonize the soil testing protocols, again in collaboration with the technical partners. We have heard of the coalitions. We have also put in place the plan to harmonize the fertilizer quality standards and also nutrient management frameworks. All these are embedded into the program which we are calling Regional Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. We have also undergone a process of assessing the zones, the regional zones, as part of initiating or supporting the soil testing. So the member states came together to look at the current rezoning, the current zones, and wanted to see the discrepancies across the member states and where they meet. And we have that documented, and we have a plan to ensure that going forward, the renaming of the ecological zones, which is attached to actually soil testing and so forth and so on, should be harmonized. Harmonized why? When we are recommending specific policies or interventions, we should be able to support across the member states. We should also be able to avoid duplication and also promote integration of the technologies within our member states. The third key area is on knowledge brokering. We have different platforms as a region, which we use to share the technologies, which the CADESA has assisted the countries to generate through different programs. So these are the key areas that we are doing. Now, the question is, where are we getting the funding for the activities? For now, the process of establishing the hub is being supported through the Food Systems Resilience Program, funded by the World Bank. But going forward, what we would want is to integrate a financing strategy, whereby soil health interventions are expected to be embedded into national planning systems, into the budgets, and aligned to the CADAP investment framework. We think if we enforce that, we should be able to sustain the activity. And again, CADESA has already revised its long-term strategy, both the medium-term strategy and the long-term strategy, to include issues of soil health and also the CADAP Kampala Declaration. And we think, because they are part of the mainstream of the institution, we do not want to projectize the intervention, but rather institutionalize the intervention, so that beyond the resources we are getting from development partners, there should be sustainability. The member states should be able to support and continue delivering the activities. The last part, in terms of financing, we are emphasizing on private sector engagement. CADESA is exploring the possibility of developing a regional soil health financing mechanism. I don't know what we call it, but what we want is to engage fertilizer companies, engage agro dealers, engage banks to co-invest in fertilizer efficiency, fertilizer innovations, and also climate resilience inputs. If we do this, we think we should be able to sustain the activities. For now, we need the resources to start the major activities. But then going forward, we think these mechanisms will be able to sustain the operations. Lastly, the lessons and strategies for better alignment with national priorities. We are doing the co-creation with the countries. Some of the countries actually have said what they have done. Zambia has spoken. We actually supported the process to ensure that the establishment of the technical committee, the soil hub in short, and also the actions should be aligned to the Continental Action Plan. So our role is to ensure that we link up with the AUC NEPAT, the action plan, cascade it to the member states using the regional fertilizer and soil health plan that is already approved by the member states. The second lesson is on peer learning and the South Exchange. We, based on the different programs that CADESA has implemented, we have been able to engage the countries to build capacity and also ensure that one technology that is generated in one country is able to be used in another country by adapting and so forth and so on. And again, evidence-based harmonization. We have been working on policies with partners to ensure that we align with the regional interventions. We have been doing CD policies, but now the emphasis again in soil health and fertilizer to ensure that when we do the soil fertility maps, they're harmonized, the agroecological zoning, they're harmonized, the nutrient gap analysis, they're harmonized across the region. And then regional knowledge systems, we have the several platforms, as I said earlier on. So we think tracking the implementation progress will enable countries to benchmark the performance and share success stories. And this we have evidence because we have had programs that have benefited from that. When the countries learn together, the progress becomes contagious, and every nation's success becomes a regional lesson. That's what we are promoting. In closing, my reflection is this Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan is more than a framework. It is a covenant with the farmers and our future. Let's actionize the plan. We have done enough of planning, we have done enough of preparation, but as CADESA now we want the intervention should be cascaded to the farmers through our coordination, regional coordination, not only CADESA, even the other continental SROs. It's our wish to ensure that there is implementation, learning from the CADAP 1.0, 1.2, and then get into CADAP 3.0. We need to enforce implementation, we need to enforce impact, and we need impact. That's my parting word, moderator. Thank you so much for giving CADESA an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bartholomew. Thank you very much. As you were making your submission, I could read the body language of Wale, and I can say it looks like there's a lot happening that is not communicated. So I think you will help the process by feeding into the technical support organization what's going on the ground, including specifics, which countries are all of these support activities happening, so that we can track our progress. Sometimes we do a lot, but the less we report, the less good we look. So thank you very much. And I also noticed that you've already given us what was going to be my round-off question for you, lessons learned and suggestions for going forward. So thank you very much. But so I'll turn now to my good friend, big brother Larry. We know that the ECOWAS hub was the first to start. In short, in my region, we actually had a sub-regional level convening before the summit. We actually had a road plan already for West Africa before Nairobi. So and we didn't slow down. So I think there's a lot to hear about what's been happening with the West Africa hub related to all the points that everyone has been talking about. Over to you, Larry.
Thank you so much, my brother Innocent. Thank you once again for giving us this opportunity. I will be making this submission on behalf of Dr. Bernard Van Looy and Lionel Kaja, both of IITA. Unfortunately, they are not here. IITA is actually the organization hosting the regional hub for West Africa and the Sahel, and they're based in Ibadan. We have been informed about the background, how the ECOWAS hub actually came about. There was the Lomé Declaration in 2023, and at that meeting they agreed that they were going to set up a regional center that will help address all the issues related to fertilizers and soil health. And in 2024, on the sidelines of the AFSH summit in Nairobi, that hub was launched, and in June of 2024 there was the real launch of that particular hub. Who are the main donors? The initial funding has come mainly from the World Bank through ICRA and a private sector company, OCP Africa. Our expectation is that as we move forward, that we would have national governments and other donors all contributing to this basket of funds. And those initial funds have been quite useful and helpful in kickstarting the operation of this hub. Key implementers of the various functions of these hubs, we have IITA, which is also the host, APNI, the African Plant Nutrition Institute, IFDC, the International Fertilizer Development Center, ISRIC, UM6P, which is a university in Morocco. These 5 organizations are the key implementers. Of course, they are working very closely and hand in hand with national stakeholders, various institutions in the West African region. What the hub clearly seeks to do, the strategic role of the hub, is to, one, empower West Africa and the Sahel to achieve sustainable soil health and fertilizer use for resilient food systems. The hub is quite clear in its determination to translate soil science into practical tools and capacity building for the industry. They want to also respond to country priorities. It's important that we appreciate that the hub was set up to basically respond to the needs of the countries and not impose solutions. But more importantly, is the hub is quite committed to delivery focus, not just research. The hub doesn't operate in silos. There's learning and knowledge sharing is extremely very important to the hub. And so one of the conversations ongoing right now is we've extended a hand, we've extended an invitation to both IGAD and CADESA for them to come visit. We will also reach out to them as well, so that we all exchange ideas. Even though we've been operating for about a year now, there are still lots of lessons. There are lots of lessons to be learned, but we also think that those new hubs do not need to reinvent the wheel. They should learn from some of the mistakes that we have also made. There are about 21 functions of this hub. I'm not going to mention all of them, but some of these functions include capacity development of national systems. We have some group working on digital soil labs, effective laboratories, farmer-led experimentation. We even have some group also doing some work on policy and investment advisory. I mean, this is also an area where ANAPRI centers could also add some value as well. And maybe you'll come help us facilitate and get the West African governments to be able to do some more work there. Of course, like most hubs, you really would have a technical backstopping team, an operational team in place. That hub is already fully staffed, has a full team in place. And from time to time, we bring in technical experts to come help do very specialized stuff. There's a governance system in place that basically has the governance, the hub advisory committee has the technical committee, the steering committee, and of course the coordination committee in place. What kind of country engagements have we had to date? There's been some work, there's some work going on in Ghana with the upgrade of gases, where the hub is also supporting Ghana to prepare them for the preparation of a concept note for FSRP 2026. Some work in Liberia going on there, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. I'm not going to go through all those lists, all the specific activities, but I'll be happy to share them with you if you want to know them. But we're also backstopping and collaborating with local implementing partners. So it's not just about the hub doing everything. We're also moving to the various countries, and where there are activities going on, we are able to backstop and support. And for example, in Mali, in Nigeria and in Ghana, some work's going on soil mapping, where we are partnering with local institutions in those particular countries. In Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, there's some work going on nutrient omission trials with local institutions that this hub is also involved in. What lessons have we learned in the last 1 year plus of operation? It's become very clear to us that regional coordination certainly adds a lot of value. We do not need to reinvent the wheel in many countries. And so the hub model and having that political leadership that comes from ECOWAS has also been very useful in navigating our conversations with member states as well. We also believe in having country points. We have country focal points. That has been helpful because it helps to secure stronger buy-ins from the countries. But we've also been able to demonstrate through our partnership with OCP Africa that engagement with private sector is possible. We need to move that conversation. We need to make sure that partnership with private sector goes beyond OCP Africa, and that we invite other private sector actors to come partner with us. If I can summarize by just talking about one or two challenges that we have faced. One major challenge is the fact that we have very limited laboratory capacity in many of our countries. That makes it quite difficult for work for us. Our data systems are also quite fragmented, and so you guys may have heard Wale talking about the need for us to have a very harmonized data system. So that has been quite difficult. Well, also, many of our countries are at various levels. The concrete political commitment we get from them is quite diverse. Excuse me. Some nations move faster than others. But let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for stretching you a bit this afternoon. I think we've heard from the countries that have shared some experience. We've also heard from the regional hubs. I don't need them to keep you here much longer. But it will be a crime to not allow you to ask if you have burning questions, haven't kept you in the room up until after 5 p.m. So I'll take just one round of maximum 4 questions, but I encourage you, if you have a question, please be a sharpshooter. Go straight to the point, you know. Is there anybody? And I'll be happy if there is none. I see one there. Before we can all go home and rest quickly if there's one. Okay, so I think we have only one. Excellent. So please give him the mic. Thank you. Introduce yourself and then shoot.
My name is Kayanja Julius from Uganda. My question goes to Mr. Larry Umon. Actually, I was supposed to ask him in the previous panel. My question is the issue around soil health in Africa. the different moving parts to the issue of soil health in Africa. So can we package all these initiatives into an annual Africa Fertilizer Week that could be inaugurated in my country, Uganda? Thank you.
That's a very interesting question, right? Larry, so they're asking the coalition of implementers for fertilizer and soil health to come and launch a physical, regular activity in Uganda.
They're called the Africa...
you have a name for it already?
Yeah, Africa
I like this. Yeah, so let's hear from Larry. And then
patented it, so...
you patented it. Yeah. So you should host the event actually from your pocket, since you've patented it. Okay, over to you, Larry.
I'm sure you have the concept note written already. No, that's a very good idea. And it's an idea that we would need to consider. I can't make commitment to you that it would be in Uganda, but one of the things we could explore is how do we have this event moving from one country to the other, and that's something certainly that we'll take into consideration. We know there's a World Soil Day that happens usually in December. I'm not aware of a regional one, so that idea is really great, and we'll definitely take you up on that and see how it goes. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I'll conclude by saying, from where I sit, from AFIDA, the Private Sector Continental Association, we just got inaugurated on the 1st of September, and I've promised stakeholders that 1st of September 2026 will show you what has happened in 1 year. It's not talk, it's action. I mean, Wale didn't receive a list of what we have done from me. Yeah, but I like he said, he likes to pull the trouble, but I'm not going to be tempted to try to list, because I started and I already have a page full that, I haven't gone halfway. So, but things are already happening. Within the last 3, 4, 5 months, you can see investments already flowing in different locations for fertilizer manufacture. So things are happening. In 1 year, we will see a lot to do. But in terms of a regular meeting, I said I wanted to let you know that now that we have a Continental Association, one of the things we'll be doing is an annual event to review the progress that is being made in the sector. And that will be driven and anchored by the private sector, but of course, we cannot do without having all the stakeholders in the room. So maybe that will be the platform. We'll see who will hit the iron faster or in a more sustainable way between ourselves and sea fish. But we need to start talking about progress consistently together. So, colleagues, I think we've had a great time during this panel session. I know there's a lot you would have loved to ask, and as you ruminate over what our speakers here have spoken, ideas might come into your mind. You want to ask later this evening, you want to corner them tomorrow and ask a bit more about the progress that is being made, or offer suggestions about how we can, fast track the pace at which we're progressing. But one thing is clear. It looks like we are gradually taking ownership of our own development. It's looking like that. And what we should hope to achieve is that it's not just a few champions that are sitting in the room today have that mindset. It should be a mindset that should penetrate our whole continent up to our national leaders to start taking ownership, so that many times our leaders put, like they say, the money where their mouth is. So we sign continental commitments, resources are put behind it, even at country level. Then when the international donor community come, they're only coming to support what we have started, So thank you again, ANAPRI, for bringing us and putting this particular conversation as part of the season. I'm going to invite to give us the summary of the conversations in this last set of panel sessions, Dr. David Nelson, to just come over and give us the summary. What we will do is, as you come up, we will take a quick group photograph so that we don't lose we don't get disadvantaged when we are compared to the last panel, and then after that you just go ahead and speak. So you join the group photo with us. Yeah, please come up. So cameraman, and then let me invite the other Wale and to join us. Yes. So over to you, David. Yeah, you sit anywhere. Okay. You have a number of seats. You have options. Yeah. So yeah, so I'll just turn it over to you to give us a summary and next steps, coming from what you've gathered so far in this last set of sessions. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I feel a little bad extending the session any longer, but I've been asked to just give a bit of emphasis at some of the points that were made and maybe a bit of perspective and interpretation coming from the global perspective, I guess. Let me just introduce myself quickly. I come from the Washington, D.C. area where I'm based. I grew up in a farming state in the United States where almost everybody's a farmer. We were growing maize and soybeans and cattle. And I did a PhD in economics and then went to the World Bank. Well, I first went to a couple of years at the University of California, but then went to the World Bank and worked in the agriculture operational part of the World Bank, so managing projects and programs with client countries for almost 30 years. And I left about 5 years ago, and almost all of that 5 years I've been working with some of these characters you saw today on the stage, thinking through the what a soil initiative for Africa could look like and what should be included. So what a great cast of presenters we had, giving quite thoughtful description of the soil initiative and what's happened already and what's expected to come. It's been one of the best experiences of my life to have a chance to work with all of you guys on that. So now I have to say, you've done a great job in summarizing what's happening, so I'll try to keep my remarks short and just give a little perspective to it. Yeah, I'm going to follow the advice of my PhD thesis committee. When I presented the defense of my thesis 35 years ago, I had 5 professors, and they got excited about talking about a trade policy issue. And I had to interrupt them about 25 minutes after it was supposed to begin, and I said, well, maybe I should get started. And my advisor said, all right, but keep it short. So I'll try to follow his advice. And by the way, I did follow it on that day, and I did get my degree. So I think today, in this session, we've been hearing about a very serious and impressive preparations for a very ambitious project. And we've been hearing from a very serious and impressive group of people who've really been effective and thoughtful in what they've put together. And they've been tackling one of the most serious issues facing African agriculture. It's hard to think of, there are probably a couple really core things that you have to have in agriculture. Soil is certainly one of them. Maybe water and effective people are maybe the other two. Maybe you can think, I'm not a scientist, so maybe the rest of you can think of additional ones, but this is one of the most important fundamental ingredients for sure. And I think you've heard a lot about preparing to make a difference in that topic. You've heard a lot about the kinds of things that you've been working on to prepare to make a difference. And I hope we get the sense that from that discussion, we're just about ready to start making a difference on the ground in farmers' fields. I think a lot has been done that you've all been describing about how we plan to do that. So I'm just going to say a few things to give some perspective to what we've already heard. And what are some of the motivations for launching that effort? One of them, there is a long-term decline in soil health across the continent. Now that's not everywhere. There are lots of exceptions to the decline in soil health. And I suspect that many of you in the room have been part of making a difference on a district or a community level. People do make a difference, and they do it successfully. But what I think none of us has managed to achieve, including my old institution, the World Bank, and some of your institutions, is to make that happen at scale. So I think the costliness of this decline in soil health is one motivation, an important one. I'll speak just a little bit about that. And the difficulty of going to scale and what it takes to put the pieces in place to go to scale. I think those are the two real motivations that got the discussion going to launch this effort. And I think for a long time, that soil health in Africa has been kind of an under-the-radar problem. Lots of people were aware of it and have noticed it, but it wasn't really getting the explicit attention that you might see in other, maybe one aspect of it got attention. The fertilizer issue is something that's gotten a lot of attention, but a more holistic approach to the soil health, including fertilizer as a very key component, has not really gotten the kind of attention you might imagine when we look at the cost of the situation. And you don't see it popping up typically in continental or national strategies about agriculture. You don't see a chapter on soil, typically. You don't see it in public sector budgets as a category of the budget. You don't see it, you don't see the World Bank or GIZ or the Gates Foundation or others. You know, we haven't typically seen soil as one of the fundamental topics that we should all make progress on. So I would say it's kind of been under the radar for a long time. And Africa, and it's been costly. So I think Wole showed us in picture form, to some extent, what are some of the things that happen when you're not paying attention to soil health and managing it carefully. But as speaking to mostly economists, I think, in this room, I'm going to just give a couple of numbers. IFPRI and the World Bank publications estimate that the cost of this decline in soil health has been roughly 5% of agriculture GDP annually. That's a pretty big number. That translates to about 0.5% of the entire economy of Africa annually, when you think of the compounding of that over the years. But for 1 year, the estimate, what is that value for 1 year? We saw someone else talk about imports reaching the level of $120 billion, I think, and we all, or was it 130? I saw a lot of eyebrows and go up, and it was kind of surprising and impressive. IFPRI and the World Bank have published that the cost of the soil health situation in Africa is about $190 billion per year. If soils were at a higher level of health and fertility, Africa would have $190 billion per year every year. And that's getting worse over time. So the cost is significant. I think it's very significant that Africa has taken on the challenge of addressing that now. I said it was under the radar, but in Africa for the last 5 years it's been prominent in the discussion. And I think Africa has been relatively little prepared to address it, however. And that's become something we've become aware of as we tried to build the soil initiative. I think at the African universities and research institutions, soil science as a discipline has experienced significant downsizing. Few faculty members now, few students. Students think there are no jobs and they don't want to come into the program. Agriculture extension is very thin in its capacity to help farmers with bringing existing science to their farm plans, to their farm activities. Ag extension is extremely important if we want to make a difference with farmers in Africa, so that's a problem. There are huge gaps in soil mapping. Some of you have spoken to some initiatives that are making a difference there, but still, that is quite an issue. There's little capacity for soil testing, and I think we have to admit that the majority of African farmers really have very little human capital and knowledge to work with to take advantage of existing science. So these are all things which make it even harder to do something successfully in turning around the soil situation. But even beyond that, when you think about going to scale, you know, I think scale is one of the main challenges. There are roughly 100 million farms in Africa. Now, we may have experience with doing a project with 100 farms, or 1,000 farms, or maybe 10,000 for some big programs. But we know how much of a challenge it is to actually make a difference on 10,000 farmers' ability to improve their productivity. 100 million? That is a massive challenge, and it really requires putting institutions and programs and building blocks in place if you're going to reach that many people. It's not only that it's 100 million farms, it's doing it in 55 countries with all their politicians and rules and laws and languages and different kinds of soil situations and agricultures. It's doing it in the education system, which we're definitely going to have to strengthen to build more human capital. We're going to need more soil scientists. We're going to need more extension people who have capacity in that topic. We're going to need, Anthony, to address some very important policy issues about how the fertilizer markets, about land tenure and other issues. So these are quite a big challenge to take all of these things on. And I think, furthermore, we deal with a lack of coordination, fragmentation of efforts. You know, we've heard about a lot of good programs already today, but so many of them act individually, and we don't get more than the sum of the parts. We hope we even get the sum of the parts. So I think the coordination and reducing the fragmentation is also a big challenge and a big factor that we need to overcome. So I think what Wole and the others have described is to address all of that is hugely ambitious, but to do that, Africa needs a much more organized system of dealing with all the elements that are involved, the mapping, the extension, the research, the fertilizer market development, and all the other issues that have been mentioned. What Wole and I think the Soil Initiative are calling for is the development of a system, an African system that will manage all of those issues. Well, I think it's very evident from the presentations today, Africa now has a plan about what to do about that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work to make it work. It's been developed over 4 or 5 years with a lot of consultation within Africa, within different communities of practice, different experts, also with people from outside of Africa, looking at experience outside of Africa. It's a very serious effort has been made to put together a serious plan. It's been developed, as many of you have emphasized, it's been developed by Africa, sometimes consulting with other people, but I think with the exception of me, this entire presentation has been African experts talking about what you've been able to do in terms of a plan and putting a plan in motion. So it's for sure an African-owned plan, and I think that's quite an accomplishment. It builds on the very important work and structures that CADUP has already put in place, including the notion of the national plans for soil health and fertilizer use, and the ways that continental and regional and national and local agencies work together. It definitely builds on that African-owned CADUP achievement, and it calls for African programs that already exist and programs that may come in the future and programs that may be suggested by external partners. It strongly calls for those programs all to align with the suggestions of the Soil Initiative. So it's fully African-owned in that sense, and I think that's extremely important. So Africa's leaders have endorsed it. Wole described the process and committed to action on this, and I think they're watching carefully. That was at the level of AU Heads of State Summit, and they spoke about roles at every level, the continental, regional, country, local, and farm level, responsibilities and roles there, and they've committed to watching to see that that happens. The plan includes a lot of guidance on how to. It's not just the goals that Wole showed us, which are important, but it's also about the how to. And over the couple of years that people have been working on this, there have been tremendous effort to consult with experts on all the various subcategories of soil health on what is best practice? What is how-to? And it's all been compiled in something that Wole showed us, the toolkit. So there's a toolkit with recommendations on what anybody's part in that soil health system, what's best practice for that part, and what it talks about comparing what we have in place now with what is recommended, and gives ideas how to move in the right direction. That is a major accomplishment to put that material together. It also talks not only about the technical aspects, but also the process aspects. For example, supporting the development of national plans. And you've heard the coalitions talk about how they can support that. It requires a tremendous amount of prioritization and coordination to make this work, and Wole's told us about how the responsibilities for that will be carried out. So I think I'm ready to conclude. Yes. With all of this in place, I think, huge congratulations to all of you who helped get us to where we are today. I think Africa is ready to make progress on the ground now. You've told us about putting the building blocks in place. Now we're ready to put them to use, make it happen at scale. And one last comment about it. I think in Africa, those of you who have put that together will lead the way on this. But the decline in soil health is not only happening in Africa, it's really a global issue. And I think Africa is the first continent to really address this kind of issue at this scale, to attempt to do that. And so I would say there are a few places where you could point to and say, okay, India has done something serious on soil. Brazil has done something serious on trying to improve soil health also, with some success. But I think neither of those is even closely comparable to the challenge that you have in Africa to make progress. So, I would say now the world is following Africa and paying attention to soil health. It's 5 years ago, soil was not on the agenda of the big international meetings, either here in Africa or at Davos or at the World Food Prize, or Bill Gates is talking about the importance of soil health, just to name a few. The attention that Africa has given to this topic has made it a global priority. Africa is leading the way on this, and congratulations to where you've already gotten, but there's a lot more to do.
Thank you so much, David, for that summary of the lessons. I'm excited about how he ended. So now we are not going to be underdogs in this business of restoring soils. We've put ourselves in a position where we have to remain leaders. If we took the first leap of willing to do restoring soil at continental level, then we must not go at a pace where people coming behind us will overtake us. We have to keep that pace, right? We have to have this as something that the world will learn from us. I think that's very important. Thank you, David, for making that point very clear. I guess with this, we close the session. I believe the organizers have, maybe if there's any announcement before we all go and retire for the day. So, Anthony, thank you very much.
I was looking for my research director. I don't see him. So you have been great for the past 3 days for those who came for the pre-event. Tomorrow is the last day. It's a half day.